Hey you guys, Joe here. Welcome to Gender Queer Chat. I missed last week. I couldn't get into the topic, unfortunately. Look at this. Look at this. He's full of love. And he's about to knock the BlackBerry over. Okay, so this week's, yeah, he's right hardcore in the way. This week's topic is a free week, and we were just going to discuss our lives or catch up, play catch up, and also just discuss kind of where we're at with gender, which is a good place to start. I just watched Cole's video, so it's fresh in my mind. And one thing Cole said was about identifying as a boy, B-O-I, boy. And I was laughing because today I actually identified as grandma. I often refer to myself as grandma behind the wheel in the slow lane. Sorry, I just kind of crawled out of bed, in case you couldn't tell. I had a nap after work, so I look a bit like hell, but I don't even care. Yeah, I know, sweetie. Yeah, I often refer to myself as grandma in the slow lane. That's kind of something I've referred to myself. And I think the thing with being a spinster, S-P-I-N-S-T-R-R-R, is I do kind of identify as an old woman sometimes. Only because old women typically come into their own. A lot of old women that I knew were very cool, and they were kind of, even though I used the word woman, the gender thing wasn't really the primary thing. The grandma. The nature of just being your own person and not giving a shit about what people think and doing your own thing, that's always appealed to me, and that's kind of how I identify. And I think a lot of younger women really care about appearances and care about what people think and stuff like that, and I don't identify with that at all. And young men I often think of as being kind of, preoccupied with sex and stuff like that, and I'm not like that at all. So, yeah, I identify as grandma. This week a few things happened. The last few weeks at work a few things happened. One was I had two opportunities, and I'm sorry, Stanley's making a racket. I had two opportunities, it's treat time, to mention, kind of to be outspoken about gender in the workplace with a couple of my colleagues, my boss and my colleague. In both cases they said something about the girls or the females or the women, and I said very bluntly, oh yeah, I don't identify that way. And that's a strange thing to say to people who don't live in, a world where that kind of vocabulary is used. They don't really understand. Like, what do you mean identify? You're a girl. What the hell are you talking about? Identify. And I just laugh because I really feel very much at a place in my life where I don't just let that pass anymore. I always speak up. I always say something along the lines of, yeah, I don't identify that. Like today, this colleague came up, my female colleague and I were standing together talking, and he came up to us and he said, "Hey, ladies," and I said, "No lady here." And he said, "Well, you know how I am." And I said, "I know, and I'm working hard to change that. Like, shouldn't just roll off your tongue that easy." And he got right mad and he stormed away, and I thought, whatever. Just keep saying it. Just keep saying it. Eventually you might crack through, someone's facade or whatever. So, the other thing that happened this week was, oh yes, I have a crush. I have a crush on someone. And it was I've known this guy for years and years, and I've kind of had a little non-sexual crush on him for years, and I still think it's mostly non-sexual, but yeah, he's 60. He's 60 years old. I just found that out. I didn't know he was 60. And yeah, I just really like him, and I see him a lot at work. He's a teacher at one of the schools I go to, and he's really, really super nice guy. He's a music teacher. He's a musician. And we exchange emails constantly about music, and yeah, it's just really cool. I haven't had a crush in years, and when I did, it was always on an asshole. And this is the first time in my life I think I'm through the woods. I think I have a crush on a man who's not an asshole. That's big news in my life. That really is. So even if nothing comes of it, which it might not. And actually, I'm going to talk back about Cole's video in a second, because here's the thing. In the last, historically I was a cisgendered female, monogamous cisgendered heterosexual female is the life I kind of lived. I didn't really 100% identify that way, but you know what I mean. Like I had a boyfriend. He was a straight guy. We did, things together. We had sex. It was a heterosexual partnership, blah, blah, blah. In the years since I've been celibate, which is more or less 11 years, give or take some, I've kind of reevaluated my philosophies on love and marriage. Well, not marriage. I was never into marriage. But I think one thing that I always knew about myself that became clear over the last few years is that I have something missing in my brain. It's the chip, the jealousy chip. I've never, ever felt jealous in my life. I've never experienced jealousy. I'm not a jealous person. And it dawned on me recently that if I was with somebody who was in love with someone else, would that bother me? And this is going back to Cole's video about polyamory, or I think she called it non-monogamous relationships. I don't think I would give a shit. If he had another girlfriend on the side, it wouldn't... What would bother me would be the lies if he didn't tell me. But if he told me, and I was like, yeah, I get it. I get that you can have 2 children and love them both completely equally. It doesn't mean you don't love anyone less because you love the one, and vice versa. Like, I understand love is a thing that you give... You know, it's huge. It's a huge thing. You don't have to just love one person and then limit it to that and then fight off all feelings. So if I were to ever, here's what it boils down to, is I think I am just naturally non-monogamous in theory. Now, that's never been the case in practice. Every time I've ever had a boyfriend, I have been monogamous. And I've been pretty strictly monogamous in theory because I don't believe in dishonesty. But in the last many years, I've discovered a lot of people online, friends of mine who are non-monogamous, you know, they're honest about it with one another, and it's totally cool. So it dawned on me recently, just because I have this crush, and I thought, well, if anything ever came of this crush, what would, you know, it goes back to a video, I think one of the videos where I said I was single, and I was explaining being single and dating. It was the dating video, how if I meet somebody that I like romantically, I feel like I have a lot of explaining to do. You know, I have to explain that I'm genderqueer. I have to explain that I don't want children, that I had my tubes tied. I have to explain that I don't shave, and I ascribe to a lot of very sort of strong, strict feminist beliefs. I have to explain that I'm a vegetarian. It seems like that I'm an atheist, or a relatively new anti-theist, actually. You know, it just seems like I have a lot of explaining to do. And now I have to add to that I'm theoretically polyamorous, right? Which I'm not. I've never done it before. I've never been in a polyamorous relationship. And I kind of mock people who are. I hate to say that out loud, but it's true. Like, I've never thought much of people who are in poly relationships. I always thought that was just high drama. But the fact is, I'm not a jealous person. I have a very low sex drive. If I was with someone who had a high sex drive, I would much prefer that they go fuck someone else than bug me and make my life a living hell. So I get some people, sex drives are different, and some people need stuff that I can't provide, right? Yeah, so now I have that to do. So anyway, recently I was thinking of this crush that I have on this guy, and I'm going to be seeing him next week to do something at his work. But I don't know, I think something might be on the horizon. You never know. As Cole said to me on my Facebook the other day, I think you should hit that, or something like that. And I was howling, saying, yeah, you should probably hit that. No, but whether or not anything happens, I'm not anxious about it. I don't feel like I have, in this case, I actually don't feel like I have a lot of explaining to do. I feel like it'll come out in due time. I mean, he's known me for years. It's no secret. There's no secrets really about me that, you know, are some sort of freaky thing that you wouldn't, the non-monogamous thing I think could potentially be considered freaky, but that's not to say I wouldn't be monogamous. If he was monogamous and I'm not falling for anybody else, it would be technically monogamous, because I'm not out searching for multiple partners. And the thing is, I don't know that I would ever. It's not in my nature. I'm just saying I don't care if other people sleep around, because that's not a big deal in my life. It's not something that I really feel. It's the lying, right? That's the big deal in my life. If anybody ever lied to me, it would be over. But and also, that's like fucking and loving are two different things. I understand if you fall in love with someone else, but you still love the person I do get that. And I know that's highly weird. That is a highly weird. I think I mentioned it to my mom the other day, and she could not wrap her brain around it at all. Mom and I argue a lot about stuff like that, like crazy philosophical topics. We were talking about, this is where it came up, we were talking about, she's related to the American election, so we were talking about Mitt Romney and Mormonism. And Mom didn't know much about Mormonism, so I was explaining it to her. I'm a bit of a Mormon, I'm obsessed with cults, like Scientology, Catholicism, Mormonism. So I'm always watching documentaries, I'm always reading stuff. And I know quite a bit about Mormonism, so I was trying to explain polygamy to her, how it was historically with Brigham Young and Joseph Smith and all that, and how it was eventually decided that it wasn't necessary, but that a lot of non-FLDS families still practice polygamy as well as the FLDS, blah, blah, blah. And the whole time Mom's going, she's making these faces and she's shaking her head. And I said, well, think of it in your own religion, because my mother's very devoutly Catholic. You know, you often probably have ideas that, like, something that is morally right to you goes against the church, or vice versa. Something that the church tells you is wrong is not morally wrong to you. And yet you have to rationalize, you have to talk yourself into believing the church's way of thinking. And I said, Brigham Young had to do that. He had to he had to talk himself and his wife into practicing polygamy when he didn't want to and she didn't want to, because it was deemed from on high to be, something that was required to get into heaven, and he had to just do it whether he wanted to or not. And Mom and I got talking about polygamy as and her Catholic beliefs, and how sometimes you have to talk yourself in and out of things, and anyway, I've sort of gone off on a tangent as always, but yeah, I don't usually talk myself in or out of things. I'm pretty authentic. I'm pretty genuine. Just recently, like I said, in the last few years, since I became aware of non-monogamy in a way that, I guess the love way, not so much the sex way. I understand that you can fall in love with multiple people. For instance, I love Stanley, and I love Eli. That doesn't mean I love, I can't love one because I love the other. Oh, my little dumb thing. Running out of time here, 10:48, and I hope I can upload this. I'm doing it on the playbook, and I'm late. It's Friday night, and I know my video is due on Friday. What else is new in my life? Crush was probably the big one. Being more bold at work about my gender identity. I just feel like I have so much to say, and I don't know. It's been we had our first snowstorm, and I actually went off the road on my new SUV. It slid, like I fishtailed out of control. I bumped the curb on the highway. It was horrible. I'm okay, and it didn't roll or anything. But yeah, I'm kind of playing a little bit of a hermit, but it's been a very good winter, very sunny and bright, and life's pretty good. Life's pretty good. Okay, I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.